It started with what should have been a delay, nothing more. I was on an Amtrak train, headed to visit my brother in Chicago, when we hit something on the tracks in rural Pennsylvania. Not a full derailment, but enough damage to strand us in a small town that looked like it hadn't changed since the 60s. They had to bus all the passengers into town while they figured out the mess. One diner, one bar, one gas station. That was it. Most people swarmed the diner, but I ended up at the bar next door, alone, with my overnight bag and a lukewarm turkey sandwich. That's where I met Natalie. She was sitting 2 stools down, scrolling through her phone with a half-smile on her face. Blonde hair pulled into a messy ponytail, wearing jeans and an oversized sweater that made her look effortlessly comfortable. We started talking after she made a joke about how it felt like we'd stepped into a Twilight Zone version of America. I laughed. She had a way of making the situation feel less annoying. She told me she was heading back home after visiting her family out east. Said she worked in logistics. I told her I was between jobs. Technically true. I'd just left a startup that went under and I was chasing down interviews and freelance gigs. She didn't seem to judge. In fact, she said something about how she admired people who were willing to take risks. We talked for hours while the buses sorted themselves out. By the time we were finally on our way again, it felt like I'd known her longer than a few hours. We exchanged numbers. I figured I'd text her once and never hear back. But she did text back, and a week later we met for coffee. Then dinner. Then more coffee. Before I knew it, we were seeing each other a couple of times a week. She had her life together in a way that was both intimidating and comforting. She had her own apartment in the city, a solid job and a routine. Me? I was still bouncing between